Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's going to be a very warm day today. I think it's supposed to be around like 92 with like 50 to 60% humidity. It's your typical southern hot summer day. Today we're going to be talking about the dahlia bed, which is something I didn't cover in the last video, which was all about my flowers that I have going on and what's happening right now with the flowers. Today it's going to be all about the dahlias, and I have to say this year is probably the best year of my dahlias yet. I'm growing the most are in flower. I think I only have a couple of failures maybe. We'll touch on those in a second. And I almost have the right variety of colors. There are some dahlias that I wish I had, and I will probably wind up getting in the near future. Hopefully, maybe. The dahlia bed itself will wind up extending again, hopefully this fall, out this way. If you've gone to my website, growinggreenfinger.com, under the garden, there's sort of a map or layout of the garden itself. And the dahlia bed is part of a flower garden. The flower garden itself is going to be rectangular, approximately 90 feet long by 60 feet wide. This bed right here is all dahlias, and then I'm going to have dahlias go down maybe about another 8 feet or so on the next leg of the flower garden when that extends, when we get to that point. That being said, let's start off at the far end and then we'll work our way back over this way. I don't know how much I'm going to be in shot for a lot of this, so I'm just going to talk, point. If I'm not in shot, forgive me. Last video I did, the camera was very shaky. I try not to make the camera shaky. I do apologize for that as well. First things first. In case you're new to the channel or you haven't been paying attention, these terracotta pots sitting on top of the bars here, on top of the poles, they're for two purposes. One, somewhat decorative. I don't know, it's just a post, but put a thing on it. Looks a little fancier, a little funnier, a little fanciful. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Either way, the other thing is so I don't poke my eye out. If I'm out here, it's really hot and I'm not paying attention, I bend over, I'm gonna bonk my head or hit my eye on the sharp metal pole. Most of the poles in the bed, most of these supports are rebar. I chose rebar for a couple of different reasons. One, your typical gardening stake is a hollow, thin metal tube, and when you try to push it into the hard clay-like soil that I have, they tend to bend, break. If the protective plastic coating gets damaged at all, the interior pipe rusts out very quickly. Rebar does rust, which is fine. It actually almost gives it an almost natural appearance. It sort of blends in a bit. And because it's not hollow, the rust is only on the surface and it won't break within my lifetime. So I chose rebar. Now I do have some of the store-bought, cheaper plastic aluminum stakes here, and that's fine. I bought them years ago. I haven't bought any in years. They have been holding up pretty well, but again, I will phase those out over time. In this way, I have a nice uniform bed of plant stakes. That's my only gripe about this bed right now, is that I have two different types of stakes. I had 3 last year because I had bamboo. Actually, I do apologize. I have bamboo down at the end now. So there's 3 different types of stakes. I use what I have on hand until I get something more and replace it. Anyways, towards the back here, which you guys can't see, I have Marry Me, and that one hasn't flowered. It is new for me this year. It's doing pretty well. I also have another one which I don't have a label on. It also might be Marry Me or something else. Again, no label on it, so it's entirely possible that it's the Japanese Suzuki Yori no Shishi. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I do apologize. Then let's go to the next one in the back over here. No plant label. So this is also probably a Suzuki. They're supposed to get a lot taller, hence the reason I have the very tall stakes here. And the Marry Me is also supposed to get tall. That's why I have the very tall stakes in the back. In front over here, I have Pooh. I had to get it. The name was funny. Winnie the Pooh, or you know what. This one has flowered this year. It is lovely. Starting to change out the plant tags because some of the tags, well, all the tags that I had in here were copper, and then I put a P-Touch label on them. And The copper is discoloring, which was expected, but over time the P-Touch label starts to fade a little bit, and then the copper, it gets a little harder for my old eyes to read. So I've been switching over to a black label with a white P-Touch label text, and I think it's a little easier to read. So that's Pooh. And in front of that, over here I have Inflammation. I have a couple of them. Inflammation is a smaller flowering dahlia, and it just keeps pumping out these small gorgeous flowers over and over again. Very lovely, very nice. Right in front of it I have Baby Yellow. It's another similar plant where it puts out small flowers and a lot at a time. I just recently deadheaded it, and it seems to have slowed down a bit, and it might just be because of the heat and humidity. Dahlias don't like a lot of heat and they don't like a lot of humidity, from my understanding. If you think I'm wrong, please leave those comments below. But they have been performing, and not every dahlia that I've gotten will or has performed here. Some do better than others. Like the Japanese variety right now is doing quite well, and the Inflammation is doing great. Next to it, I have a red skin dahlia. The red skin dahlia is a dahlia I grew from seed. The flower colors may vary from a yellow to a almost red, I think, to white. Been doing quite well. I actually have to go through and deadhead again. I just deadheaded the other night. I think not last night, the night before. And already I can see quite a few flowers here that I have to deadhead. So please forgive the flowers there. Next to it, in the back over here, I have Teddy. Now Teddy I bought new this year. I think it was a replacement for a Teddy that I had in the past that never flowered or never grew. This one also has not seemed to have grown at all. The tuber itself does not seem to be rotten. It has been trying to put out roots, which is great, but no, so I'm thinking there's no eye on the tuber itself. Therefore, I don't think I'm going to get a flower from that this year, so we'll consider that a failure. I may wind up repurchasing it again next year, not sure. We'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll just skip it and move on to something else. Up here next to the red skin dahlia, I have one of my favorites, Franz Kafka, and puts out these lovely pink ball flowers. It's been doing well. It's been producing well. I think this is its second year in the ground, so that's good. I may wind up pulling it up next year maybe, and then dividing the tubers. And that's something else I want to mention. Because I'm in growing zone 8A, I can leave my tubers in the ground. The only thing I'll do towards the end of the, at the end of the season is I'll probably put down a layer of compost and then mulch on top of that. And this way that'll help protect the tubers and keep them from freezing. We do get freezing nights here, but we don't get hard ground frosts, which is typically what kills your dahlia tubers. So I can leave my dahlias in the ground, and many of these that you see here today were left in the ground last year and they've come back. Some of them are new this year. I planted them in the spring, but others I've left in the ground. And a perfect example is the Pretty Woman Dark Angel right here. That is another small type dahlia, and it again puts out these lovely dark purple pink flowers. It's another one that produces on a very regular basis, just keeps throwing up these little flowers. So I have to go through again and deadhead. And the plants themselves, because they've been flowering so long. So for instance, when I lived in New York, the dahlias there didn't start flowering until August, September, probably closer to September, depending upon the weather. And then they stopped, of course, at first freeze, which would be early-ish November, late October. So you really only get about a month and a half, 2 months of flowers. Here, because it's so warm, the dahlias take off sooner. And because they take off sooner, they could also peter out sooner. So basically they exhaust themselves because they've been flowering and flowering and flowering all season long, and they'll tire themselves out. What I planned on doing a couple weeks ago, which I haven't gotten around to doing, but I'll make a concerted effort to do it tomorrow, is I'm going to get some fertilizer, and I'm going to use a product called Kickin' Chicken. It's a Daddy Pete's product, and it's aged cow manure and chicken manure all mixed together. And I'm going to spread that over the whole bed. And I'll do that right before it rains, which is at this point allegedly Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Who knows, with as hot as it's been, we've been getting some pop-up showers. But I'll cover the whole bed in the Kickin' Chicken, and that should reinvigorate a lot of these flowers, give them that extra energy that they need to maybe hopefully continue through towards the end of the year. Behind it over here, I have, who is this? David Howard. It's a soft pink flower. It's not as tall as I would have hoped, but I think that's a newer one for this year, so maybe next year it'll wind up being that much taller. Continuing on, I have Winky Kernel towards the back and the front over here. They are doing pretty well, but the reds don't seem to be as vibrant as they were last year, and perhaps it's because they've been in the ground a little longer. Maybe if I dig them up this year and then divide them and replant them, maybe next year the reds and the flowers will be a little more vibrant. I'm not sure, but Winky Kernel, it does produce a lot of flowers and they are very nice. Behind them, I have a flower which hasn't flowered for me yet, but has some buds on it, Southern Belle. I'm looking forward to that one. I can't remember what that looks like. Now in front over here, I have Gets Crazy. That hasn't done anything yet this year. It's a new one for me. It was a free giveaway from Swan Island Dahlias. I buy a lot of my dahlias from Swan Island Dahlias. When you purchase a certain amount, they wind up giving you a free dahlia, and Gets Crazy was the freebie. Next to it here, I have Lady Liberty, and I often confuse Lady Liberty with another one in the beds, and I'll show you that one in a second. But it produces these lovely white flowers, and this morning I had a little green spider hanging out on top of the flower. It's pretty funny. Behind Lady Liberty, I have several Sylvias. They have these soft orange flowers, and they again have been a constant and large producer of flowers. It's really nice. Behind that one, all the way towards the back, I have another. Back here I have one called Polyventor Supreme. It's a very soft yellow flower, pretty small. This is also a new one for me this year, and it's been growing quite well. Towards the back here is the other white flower, which I often confuse with Lady Liberty, and that's Fleur. I can't think of the name, but it produces these large white flowers. They are lovely. I love the frilliness of the flowers, both that one and Lady Liberty. Again, they look similar, so it confuses me. But either way, the plants have been doing really well, and I believe this is their second year in the ground. So again, maybe I'll dig them up later this year or next year. See how long I can keep them in the ground without digging them up. In the front here, I have a red skin dahlia, and the red skin dahlia is, this one is more of a yellowish, orangish, a little pinkish. But again, the red skin dahlia being a smaller variety just produces mad flowers constantly. Behind the red skin dahlia, I have a Miss Rose Fletcher. Now that one has not come up this year as well, so I don't know if the tubular rotted, if it didn't have an eye. I'm not going to go digging in there right now, but I think this is the second year I've tried to grow Miss Rose Fletcher with no success. So I'm thinking I just may scratch that one off the list and never try to grow that again. Some plants work, some dahlias work, some dahlias don't work. Again, I'm in growing zone 8A. I'm sort of pushing the limit with the dahlias. They, again, from my understanding, they don't like really hot heat, and I have quite a lot of hot heat here. I try to counteract that with the mulching, watering, and it seems to be helping with most of these plants, as you can see. Behind that, the pink one over here is, I guess this pink one back here, I'm missing a label on. I'd have to go back to my spreadsheet, see if I can figure out what it is. Another lovely performer, doing quite well. Next to that, and behind this yellow one here, I have Melody Dora. It's also a new one for me this year, and it's been producing nicely. These, again, lovely, soft, reddish, pinkish, peachish flowers maybe. It's been doing quite well. In front of it, the large yellow one here, this one is Goodishink, I can't pronounce the name, Goodishink. Lovely large yellow flowers with these little tinges of red or pink in them. It's very nice. Behind that, a more darker purple flower, Ryan C. That one has been doing okay. Next to that is one that I planted this year, has yet to flower, and that's Cornell. And then next to Cornell, I have another Cornell, so I have two Cornells. And then in front of them, you really can't see it because it's dwarfed by all these others, but it's growing back there, Lilac Thyme. Now I've grown Lilac Thyme before, and it does pretty well for me. So we'll have to wait and see. And these red skin dahlias, again, are more of the yellowish, reddish type. But behind them is probably one of my more fun dahlias. Back here, I have Hulin's Carnival. And probably one of the things that makes it the most interesting and the most fun for me is it's a white flower, but it looks like somebody took a paintbrush and just sort of splatted purple paint on it. It's pretty funny. To me, it's amusing, it's fun, it's interesting, and it's something that's quite different than a lot of the others. So I like that. In front of it, I have a red skin dahlia that's gone purple. Unlike the one next to it that's doing yellow, this one's doing purple. The red skins you can get a variety of different colors on. Next to it, I have Bambino. Bambino obviously has these little white flowers on it. Looks very nice, stays very small. And behind that one, I have Kelvin Floodlight. Now Kelvin Floodlight back here, behind the Bambino, has flowered at least once, and it's produced this massive flower. It's almost comical that it's so much larger than the plant itself, but it is a large, beautiful white flower. So that's it for my dahlia garden, as it were, my dahlia beds. As you can see, I have numerous different types. Ones I've grown from tubers, ones I've grown from seed, various colors. I usually just go through the catalogs and pick out all the colors that I like. Different varieties of, if that's the correct word, of dahlias, where I have open face, I have ball, I have decorative, I have informal decorative. I don't know how many different flowering types of dahlias there are. There are quite a few though. If you're interested in dahlias, there's all sorts of resources on the interwebs. Probably one of my favorites so far as planting and growing and dividing would be Dahliaholic, and I can leave that link on the screen or down below in the description. It's an English couple, Jeff and Heather. Jeff is the master gardener, as it were, and he was the one who puts in a lot of work and care. And I think this year he said he's planted something over 400 dahlias in their small English garden. It's amazing. And he catalogs them all and he tries to breed his own. It's pretty wild. But there's a lot of different dahlia resources out there. Dahlias for me are a plant that just keeps giving. Again, they have different styles. If you're concerned about the bees, you can get an open face. If you want something fun and comical, you can get one of the varieties like Hulin's Carnival that again has a speckled look, or there's again different color patterns. That's gonna wrap it up for today. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click on that bell icon to be notified of when I do post up a new video. You never know what I'm going to be posting up next. Well, sometimes you do know, because I do tell you. I have no idea what I'm doing on Friday's video yet. Things to plant. Maybe I'll do a planting video on Friday. I don't know. If you have any suggestions or thoughts or comments, please leave them below. Sophie, any other ideas or thoughts, comments? No? Nothing? Sophie doesn't like much of the heat either. Although she does want to go find a stick now and go find a shady spot to chew on it in. So I'm going to let her go do that. And I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.